It's so great to be here today. My name is Frank Young. I lead strategy and product innovation at Global Payments. For those of you who don't know Global Payments, we're headquartered right here in Atlanta, 8,500 employees worldwide. We process payments in 30 countries worldwide and process over $500 billion in payment volume for our millions of merchants. I guess if our merchants were a country, we'd be about the 21st largest country in the world, to put that in perspective. We recently acquired Heartland Payments. You may have seen some of their capabilities on display outside. One of the reasons we're so proud about having them on display, the connected laundry use case that you see out there, is connected devices have been around for 4 years. Last year, we did about 50 million laundry cycles through those devices. We'll do about 80 million this year. So that growth is pretty consistent with a lot of the great things we're seeing. But this isn't something that's happening in the future. This is happening right now. I moved to Atlanta in 1993. I'm originally from the Northeast, but in about 3 years, I will have spent more time in Georgia than my native New Jersey. So I'm on the cusp of my wife no longer introducing me as her husband from New Jersey. I'll be her husband from Georgia. But I wanted to try to add a little bit of perspective before I introduce our next speaker. I think you heard a little bit of this from Todd this morning. But I want those of you from Georgia, from Metro Atlanta, to take pride in what we're sitting on right now. And if you're not from Georgia or Metro Atlanta, take notice of our position in the world of connectivity. So consider a few of these points. The city of Atlanta next year will celebrate its 180th anniversary. Many of you from Atlanta may know that Atlanta was originally called Terminus, literally end of the line. And it was a rail line that connected the seaport of Savannah to Atlanta. But we clearly are not the end of the line. In the time that we've been around, we've actually become not just the hub of Georgia, but the hub of the southeastern United States, and in many respects, a hub of the world. So that 0 Mile post, you can still see it down at at 5 Points downtown, right outside of underground Atlanta. If you want to get out, I think there might be a Pokestop nearby to give you some incentive to go down and check it out. But here's a few other points. I mentioned the Port of Savannah. Did you know that in the state of Georgia, the Port of Savannah, it's the fastest growing port in North America? And so it's connecting ships from all over the world. Our airport, we take a lot of pride in it. It's the busiest airport in the world. We see 10 million more passengers in Atlanta than the airport in Beijing, China. Planes, trains, automobiles, shipping containers, it's all part of the fabric of Georgia. And this is things we should take great pride in. And so we've connected atoms, the physical world, but we also connect bits and bytes. Our role as a hub for the fiber network, for the fiber optic networks out there, I think Todd touched on this earlier. We're sitting on top of 2 of the largest fiber trunk connections that intersect right here in Metro Atlanta. Here's another one you may not connect. Consider CNN. I'm very proud of the fact that Atlanta was the founding of CNN, and anybody in the political science world may know of a situation or a theory called the CNN effect. The CNN effect postulates that the development of that 24 hours news network was a key determinant in the later stages of the Cold War era. And today it's being used as an argument to suggest that the extent, depth, and speed of news connectivity is fundamentally changing geopolitical forces. And that came from a company founded right here in Atlanta. So that's exciting. So I come from the fintech background. Anybody in fintech, you often hear the fact that 60% of the companies in fintech are either headquartered here or have resources here. It's very exciting. 70% of the payments in the United States flow through Georgia and Metro Atlanta. So these are all things to be proud about. Connectivity is in our DNA. And Global Payments is incredibly proud to sponsor today's event. So late last year, a small team of us at Global, we stumbled on a Kickstarter campaign set up by a group of entrepreneurs in Amsterdam. Their vision, their approach inspired us to learn some more about them. The campaign was set up by an organization called the Things Network. They've set on a course to establish an open source community combined with a set of practical tools to encourage innovation and development in the connected world. So anybody out there who considers themselves an entrepreneur, here we are in July. I challenge you before Labor Day to establish a credible global platform serving the needs of the IoT world. Do it by Labor Day. Sounds challenging? That's exactly what our next speaker did last year. Still not a year old, we're fortunate that Wienke Giezeman is here to tell us about the Things Network and his background. I won't go into any more detail. There's really no one better to tell his story than Wienke himself. So Wienke, please join us and tell us your story. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for the introduction, Frank. My name is Wienke Giezeman. I'm an entrepreneur from Amsterdam, and I'm going to tell you a story. We built an Internet of Things data network in Amsterdam in 6 weeks, and how we replicated that across 200 cities around the world in 6 months. Not before I thank the organization of TAG for this opportunity. Thank you very much. It's an awesome conference, and I always wanted to perform at a dinner show. So thanks for that as well, Todd. Let's get this started. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I started as an internet entrepreneur in 2012. I founded a Dutch video-on-demand company, and it was aimed at art house. Netflix was not yet in the Netherlands. Was my first internet company. I sold it to a Dutch publisher owning a couple of TV shows in 2014. And at the end of that, I thought, I want to do that next adventure, next business. And of course, I was looking at all these different kind of trends. So I was looking into big data. I was looking into artificial intelligence. And of course, also Internet of Things. And to be honest, at that moment, I thought, Internet of Things? It's a term I already hear for like 15 years. I'm in technology, but I don't really know what it is. And if you start Googling, you find these kind of things. And 15 years ago, we were promised a smart fridge. Who in this crowd has a smart fridge? Okay, nobody has a smart fridge. So, okay, Internet of Things, like a lot of stories, where are their products? And then if you start Googling, you can find these kind of applications: a smart fork, a smart coffee cup, a smart toothbrush, a smart egg tray. So these guys went bust 3 months ago. It's, I think, Darwin at play. And I really love this one. This is an alarm from Budweiser, and it goes off when your favorite American football team scores a touchdown. Right? So giving you content in a different way with connected devices. Interesting. So when you look at the Internet of Things, how we used to look at it, it's still a lot of Internet of Humans. I see wearables like this Apple Watch. It's an extension of my iPhone. It's still a computer, human-computer interface. And if you look at the technologies that are underlying to this, is for instance Bluetooth. It's made to make a really small personal network around you as a human. 3G is for watching Facebook videos in public transportation, and Wi-Fi is for watching 4K videos on your iPad. But Internet of Things, where is the Internet of Things? And it was not until 2015, last year, in May, that I visited a hackerspace in Amsterdam, and somebody showed me a new technology, and they say, this is LoRa. This is a gateway. You can compare this to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, so it transmits data over the air. But it has some very interesting characteristics. It's perfect for the Internet of Things. So it has a long range. So if you place one gateway here, I can talk to devices that support LoRa within a range of 10 kilometers. I can connect up to a lot of devices, like 10,000. Bluetooth can only do 20, and Wi-Fi can maximum amount on one gateway is around 50. It uses very little bandwidth, and therefore it uses very little power, so the battery of the device or the sensor can last for very long, up to 3 years. And that's perfect. So for instance, take a chair. I want to connect a chair to the internet. I don't need a lot of bandwidth. It tells me whether there's somebody on that seat or not. Maybe it's out of balance, so maybe I need to repair it or replace it. But these are just bits and bytes. That's not something you can compare to a YouTube video or to a Netflix movie. So that's perfect. And it uses an unlicensed spectrum. And the interesting thing about this spectrum, it's called the ISM band. And in the US, it's the 915 megahertz. And the interesting thing here is that it's regulated. So you're only allowed to use it in a certain way, and the regulation is aimed at the fact that a lot of devices and a lot of people can use that network. Maybe you live in a crowded area. I live in a crowded city. When I open my laptop, I see at least 20 Wi-Fi hotspots, and it really influences the quality of my Wi-Fi. And at my apartment, it drops a lot. That doesn't happen with this open frequency. So, okay, these are the specs. How we're going to make money. Where's the business case behind this tech? Where is the value? The value we talked about this morning. I always give the example of a smart mousetrap. So if you're in a hotel like this and you want to do pest control, you place mousetraps. You have to check every mousetrap at least every 2 weeks, because otherwise it gets a mess. So what you do, you make it a smart mousetrap. So instead of now somebody just checking all the mousetraps every 2 weeks, you only go to the mousetraps that have a mice in them. There's your HR business case. And then you could say, yeah, but this building has Wi-Fi. Why don't I just use Wi-Fi? You can use Wi-Fi, but then you have to hire somebody to replace the battery every 4 weeks, right? So this technology with a low power, long range, low cost will enable you to cut on your facility management costs and then even on the recurring costs, which will make every business case go positive very quickly. And if you talk about the costs, so a gateway with a range of 10 kilometers costing only around $1,000. And if you compare that to a 3G base station that the large telcos are using, this is just really nothing. So I saw that. I was at that hackerspace and I thought this is just amazing technology at this price. This is very cool. So if you imagine placing one gateway somewhere, have a radius of 10 kilometers, draw a circle and put that on the map. Imagine if you do that at your house or at your office, what's the space you're going to cover with this technology? It's huge. So I thought, let's do this in Amsterdam. Let's build this network in Amsterdam, and let's start up with 10 of these gateways. We'll have the whole city covered. And I pitched that idea to a friend of mine. Now he's my business partner, Johan Stocking. He's a great entrepreneur and a very good programmer. And I told him this, how we could build this network in Amsterdam. And we came up with the idea to build this network how the internet was created. And the internet was created by local private networks, by the government, by large institutions, by the universities, and connecting them together with open source software to create one internet. And that meant that when the internet was born, nobody owned the internet. It was a distributed, decentralized system that could grow by itself and organically, and that's the origin of the success of the internet right now, because there was not a single organization, not a single government that actually owned this internet. So we went back to that hackerspace, and there was 100 people there, and we said, our mission is to build a decentralized, open and crowdsourced Internet of Things data network owned and operated by its users. So I don't really feel it right here at the moment, the enthusiasm, but at that hackerspace, there were 100 people, and one day later, we were in a room with 10 of these programmers actually going on a mission. They say, we're going to do this network in Amsterdam in 6 weeks, and we're going to build the software to do that, and we're going to open source it and give it away for free so that everybody can copy. So Steve Jobs would call this a bunch of crazy ones. So there's a policeman, there's a physics professor, there's a chemistry professor, there's somebody who just went bankrupt, a student, and we had all the competencies to do that. And so they found out together that it was actually possible. It was feasible to create this network and feasible to implement this mission. So I needed to go out and ask people in Amsterdam, do you want to buy a gateway so we can build an Internet of Things data network for Amsterdam together that's owned by everybody? So I needed a lesser abstract story and a lesser technical story to convince them, so we created a little use case. In Amsterdam, you have a lot of canals. We have a lot of water in the Netherlands, and we have boats in these canals. And they always fill up with water, either because they leak or because of the rain we have in Amsterdam. So we created a little water sensor that if the boat would fill up with water, would send the owner of the boat an SMS, and if the owner would SMS back, clear the water from my boat, then we have a service in Amsterdam that has a boat and then actually goes to your boat and gets the water out. So this was an example of a use case that they really understood, right? So that's, oh, this is the value of Internet of Things. It extends your senses to that boat. It provides you with the data to prevent the boat from ending up at the bottom of the canals. And then actually feed that data into a business that can solve your problem for you. So 2 weeks later, we get all these companies to buy a gateway. We got some startup spaces, a tech blog called The Next Web. There are also corporates like Deloitte and Port of Amsterdam and KPMG were involved. And 6 weeks later, we installed all the gateways there. We have written the software, and we launched the network. This is at my office. It's an old building in Amsterdam on the canals. And we're like, we created an instant ecosystem of people that were interested in Internet of Things. Not only makers, not only programmers, but also entrepreneurs, people from the government, people from corporates. So a very diverse group of people. And what we did next is create a little video about what we did and just tell the world about it.
Imagine an Internet of Things data network that's created by the people and free and open for everyone to use. That's our mission at the Things Network. We are a group of people that is building a global, crowdsourced, open, free Internet of Things data network. New technologies allow for things to connect to the internet without Bluetooth, 3G or Wi-Fi. This technology is called LoRaWAN. It's very battery efficient, so devices can last up to 3 years. It's long range, it has a reach of around 10 kilometers, and it's low bandwidth, ideal for the Internet of Things. The good thing is that this network can be built at a fraction of the cost of traditional mobile data networks. The bandwidth used by LoRaWAN is open, and the network equipment is low cost. In the old world, building such a network was up to large corporations. We built the network ground up, funded by its users. So with a small group of people, it's possible to provide data connectivity for an entire city. It's our mission to support that globally. The city of Amsterdam was covered in 4 weeks, and use cases were built on top of that, starting from the first day. We believe the abundance in Internet of Things data connectivity we're providing result in exponential innovation in the Internet of Things. You are the network, let's build this thing together.
So that's what we said. You are the network, let's build this thing together. And because we opened up all our IP, we opened our brand, we just welcomed everybody that wanted to replicate what we did in Amsterdam. And the next day I got an email from Sydney, from somebody that said, I registered Sydney, thethingsnetwork.org. The day after that, I got somebody from Buenos Aires, somebody from Boston, somebody from India, somebody from South Africa, somebody from Manchester in the UK, somebody from Paris. And this whole story started going viral within the IoT community. And we set up a community platform very fast, so everybody could have their own place on the thingsnetwork.org. And they got back to us and they said, yeah, this is so cool, we want to do this. But hey, we're living here in Sao Paulo, we're in the midst of a crisis. This $1,000 gateway is quite expensive. And we want to build our own use case as well, so we need prototyping tools to do that. So we teamed up with a product agency from the Netherlands, and we said we're going to build a gateway with the same specifications for $200. And we're going to build 2 development devices that you can see here on the left of the slide. These are Arduino hardware development devices that are connected to the Things network, and they are perfect for prototyping and making an application very fast. And so we had this growing community. We had around 1,000 people that were interested, and we asked them, so if we're going to create this product, are you going to buy it? And we got from 600 people, we already got the interest. They say, if you're going to put this to market, we want it. And that's when we decided to start a Kickstarter campaign, a campaign to crowdsource and pre-fund the resources you need to create a product. And what we said to these 600 people, 21st of October 2015, we're going to launch the network at 2 o'clock. But at 3 o'clock, we're going to tell the press. So make sure that between 2 and 3, you did your pledge, and we create this viral effect, this social proof that this is going to be something interesting. So that's exactly what we did, and within the first hour, we got $300,000. Within the first 24 hours, we got $80,000. And within a week, we got our Kickstarter goal of $150,000, and we ended up in $300,000 in pledges, which for us as entrepreneurs and as social entrepreneurs was also something that, okay, like creating a network for the people, by the people, it's very romantic. People will tweet about it, people will tell the story. But actually pledging $300 for a development kit and then having 1,000 people across the world, across 40 countries doing that, then there's also probably some business to do here as well. So we shut down our current businesses, Johan and I, and got all in on this. I got a lot of media attention, TV, blog. We got the Internet Society Innovation of the Year Awards. And all these communities, they kept growing. So this is a map of, I think, already a month ago, where we can just see that we have, like, from all these places around the world, people that are building these networks based on our ideas. These are just a few around the world, few of the faces of the people that are leading a group of people building this network for their city. And some statistics at the moment, already at 40 countries, we already got 200 active gateways, which are very expensive, the expensive gateways, and also very hard to install. These kind of communities and people doing meetups. This is in Sao Paulo, printing T-shirts, using our logo to do it. This is one test setup in Buenos Aires. I don't know if this is safe, but they'll figure out, right? This is, for instance, all kinds of community members that making applications. So, for instance, bike trackers, measuring the health of cows. This is a project we do in the US, actually with a community there that measuring radioactivity across the country. This is a so-called Geiger-Müller counter, and that's then connected to the Things network providing data. This is a community project of people in Oxford, London, measuring the heights of the canals. And this data is being fed over the Things network to a central system, which then generates flood warnings when they see an increase in height in the canals. We're making a smart parking lot for the Port of Amsterdam. That's one of the things we're doing. So we just proved that people are interested to build this network. People are interested to create applications on top of it. And we thought, as an organization, we now did the first step. But in the end, it's all about value creation, right? So this network is interesting. It's a technology push. We nerds love this. But we have to make sensible applications. So we said our next mission is also to guide in that. And how we do this is that we actually see that we have two phases. You have the 0 to 1 phase, where we see that products are created, right? So there is nothing, you create something, use case, you prototype, that's one. And the second is that you scale. So at the moment, we're really focused at all kinds of makers, at homebrew-like societies, but also in corporate innovation hubs. We're helping out in finding out how can this IoT deliver value for you. And we do that by all kinds of events. For instance, we were speaking at Southwest Conference. We're doing a lot of developer conferences at the moment and visiting a lot of meetups. And we're also involving more businesses in the network we currently have. So what we do is we're partnering with smaller, larger organizations, because in the end, the complete product you're creating consists mostly out of multiple organizations and multiple pieces of products. And that's what we're doing at the moment on a professional level. And to give you an idea about how this solution really looks at, just a drill down of what we're doing, you must imagine that you have a thing. So the smart mousetrap, a temperature sensor, a pressure sensor, cost you around $5 to $10. The physical gateway costs you up to $300. And then you have to build some network services to store the data and route the data, and you have to think about $100 to $200 when you use it to its full capacity. So if you're talking about these 10,000s of devices per gateway. And how this is different than telcos building IoT networks is that you are in control of the quality of service and the level of security. So if my mobile phone doesn't work, I can call my operator, but the chances of them fixing it within 24 hours is very low. If the Things network doesn't work, you cannot call anybody. But you can go to a store, buy a gateway, have it in your office next day, and you have extended the network for only $300. So that's one. The second part is that a lot of currently available IoT applications do not support end-to-end security. So your data is stored in the intermediate location, most of the times at the moment in favor of lock-in of the provider or in favor of usability. We provide an architecture that it's possible to run end-to-end security applications, because it's possible to embed the security decryption part in your own application. So we built this network, and we got a lot of questions from businesses. Say, okay, this community network, that's really nice, but I want a bit more control, a bit more quality of service, and I don't really know if I want to share my network with the community. That's all fine. We can just build a dedicated network for you. You run the services, you run your own keys, you have the situation under control. This is, for instance, a hospital. They need to be careful with what they do. They need to have their own network. And because we're open, we're fine. Do this. This is perfect. We also got people that say, okay, I love this whole global network. I would love to leverage it, because then my devices work all across the world. But I want to be in control of my own solution. That's also possible. So you run the entire technology stack within your own premise, but you enable community collaborations, and messages go back and forth between the community network and your network. We love this model. It enables you to extend the network, to grow it, and also it enables you your requirements with regard to security and quality of service. There's also another option. Say, I just want to leverage the entire global network, but I want to run my own security. That's also possible. It's run a global network, but you only own your own keys. And you can also acquire a managed solution with us and you have just the whole stack. You will not be accessing end-to-end encryption, but for a lot of use cases, that's just perfectly fine. So now we have this network. It's a foundation, so everybody is like leveraging the network. Everybody's taking value from the network. So, so people, they place things, they place sensors, and they want to get the data. So that's here on the left-hand side. That's actually leveraging the network, is using this technology. And other people are contributing to this network. We have 1,500 people that pledged for a gateway. Where when we ship these products in September, we're going to be the largest IoT network in the world. They actually contribute to the network. And you have people that run these routing services in the cloud to make sure that the data gets at the right application, and they also contribute. So what we're doing at the moment is we're working on a model to make sure that there's a balance in the take and give, that this becomes a market that's actually working. And we're going to do that by introducing so-called a little currency called waves. And these you can earn waves by contributing to the network, and you can leverage the network by paying to it, and making sure we get into a model that evens out. So for you, how to get started? If you're an IT integrator or a developer, I would always say start low key, buy a kit, give it to one enthusiastic young developer, let him hack with it over the weekend, and on Monday morning he will tell you all about the good stuff. If you're a business, I would definitely look at all kinds of examples you see. So for instance, take the mousetrap example and replace the mousetrap with a temperature sensor, and replace the facility management system that plans the facility managers to clean the mousetraps with another system, and just start playing around with it. Just do a free brainstorm. I bet within an hour you will come up with at least 5 positive business cases for this technology in any operational process. As a city, at the moment we got 200 cities, 200 communities around the world that are working on their local networks, also waiting for Kickstarter products to ship as well. But if you want to start this for your city, for your community, or maybe even for your use case, or for whatever, go to thethingsnetwork.org or go to me directly, and I will get in touch with you. And last, I wanted to say is that we're also involving a lot of corporates, a lot of enterprises in our community at the moment. We'll be announcing some large US players as well shortly. And if anybody's interested to contribute or to see what we can do for each other as an enterprise, come to me, and I'm happy to discuss opportunities. Thank you very much for your attention. And I got some room for questions. So if anybody has a question, let me know.
Since you know you're amongst friends here, folks who understand what you're referring to, and they can see the concept. When you come back a year from now, if we were to embrace this now, what do you see for Atlanta as the high point and the low point? What would you envision?
So I would envision the high point is that you have a completely city-covering network, which is a base network. So just to get a bit more technical, it supports 10,000 devices per gateway. If you increase the circle, you dilute the capacity of that gateway over the area. So what we start in cities is to have a very thin network across the city. And when somebody starts to build their smart office or they start implementing a use case, they are incentivized themselves to extend the network by buying a gateway. And then you end up with a picocell architecture. And that's the evolution I envision for how these networks should grow. So where Atlanta would be is somewhere in between, that you already have a thin network and that you find businesses that have positive business cases, and they are actually contributing by building the network with these low capital expensive business cases. Somebody else in the back? Yeah. So the question there is, what's the difference to the system what Sigfox is rolling out? So Sigfox is a one-stop shop for this kind of use cases. They will charge you a monthly subscription. They control the network, and it's a very great service, but it's a completely different model. So if you want to be serviced completely and are not, you see that your business case works with $1 per month per sensor in that range, then that's your solution. If you want to have a lower costs, if you want to reduce on the operational cost of your sensor network, if you want to get in control of the quality of service and level of security, you want to go for this. Yeah, it's using the same band, so it's you can really compare the two technologies. So it's also limited to the low bandwidth that I was talking about with regards to the regulated and unlicensed spectrum of the 915 megahertz. Some other question there? We have one.
Here, your product, right?
Yeah, so how do you make a positive business case? You make a positive business case because the question was, how do you make a positive business case? You make a positive business case if, it's actually really simple. If your operational efficiency, and lots of times that's recurring operational efficiency, is bigger than the operational costs of maintaining your sensor network. And that's actually one of our strengths. So our operational cost of managing your sensor network with us is very low. So that's why your business case will become more positive soon. Okay, one last question. And
Hi, you had some, I'm
Oh,
over
there.
here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You
there.
talk about unlicensed spectrum, and you're talking about certain spectrum in Europe, and certain spectrum in Latin America maybe, and certain spectrum in the US. And if this is supposed to be like an international global network, how is it all interoperable?
yeah, it's interoperable because of a protocol called LoRaWAN. It's a network layer on top of this radio frequency layer. And that's independent of the actual radio frequency that's used. So there's a decoupling between the physical and the network routing layer. And that means that for a different demographic, you need different chips, but you don't need a complete different stack, right? So they're independent from each other. So you need to buy different chips, but you can use the same network. Maybe we can do the last question. I don't know if there was still one, and then.
Just simple question. Which was, I think that was loud enough. Yeah. So which has been the most complex or difficult use case you have been able to look at? Or maybe by industry sector, if you want to say.
Okay, a short question needs a longer answer. So I love use cases where big data, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things converge to something bigger. So I love the concept of energy peak shaving. We're going to a world where our energy consumption is on demand, but our energy production is determined by nature. So we need to align those both. So we need all kinds of smart systems to either influence the demand or influence the way it works. So one of the use cases we're looking on in managing water pumps in the Netherlands based on weather forecasts that run our windmills and then only put the pumps on when the energy price is negative and actually making money by using energy. So these are...
Yeah, and the second part, which was the most craziest one or which amused you the most?
Which amused me the most? I think that's a great bridge to these awesome use cases of the hackathon. So I think they can explain themselves. But I love this one. I think it's perfect. Yes? Next, I think...
Thank you.
Yeah, it's your turn. Thank you very much, by the way.